Hi everyone, this is Sada Nawab Khan here, and um, I wanted to talk about migrations today and what I've seen in the years that I've worked in the industry. That migrations are kind of like a neglected child. So they are like I mean, you start a project and you just want to get it over with. With the migrations, you just go there, you just put in some basic things like some strings, some integers, maybe some text. We don't give much thought to how we are defining migrations, and what I've seen over the years is like it actually comes back to haunt you. So I've seen that there are instances in which people regret what they have selected as an option when they were setting up migrations, and then they have to jump a few hoops and try a few things to kind of get it to a point where it's workable. But it could have been something, as you'll see in this video, it could have been something that could have been really avoided, and it could be taken care of pretty quickly right in the beginning of the project. But that was not done, and what happened was that later on in the project it became a pain, and it became quite difficult to kind of get sorted. So in this video we'll try to cover the the basics, not only the basics but also some advanced things, and share some tips and tricks that um, I've accumulated, some tips and tricks that I can offer to make the whole process a lot more smoother. So we'll just start with a new Laravel project, and let's say we'll not have a front end, so we don't need a starter kit. So I think I have a slightly older version of the Laravel installer. Like the newer version actually asks you about Laravel Boost and all that, but yeah, I think we should be good. We just want something basic, like migrations are always there in all the projects, and I think for the basic purposes of this video, we should be okay uh, with SQLite. So the migrations have already run, and we'll just open the project. So I'll just do a code dot, which I think Cursor has hacked from VS Code recently. So yeah, I think but we are good. We should be good. So we'll just switch to this terminal, and the first thing that I normally do is get init so that you guys can also have a look at this project later. So just like all other videos, I always add sorry, morning blues. I always add this add the project to Git and push it to a public repo so that you guys can have a look later on. So I think there's nothing to look at in the env. Pretty straightforward SQLite, and so that shouldn't be such a big deal. So if we go to the database, you'll see database.sqlite here, and what we'll probably do is I have base here, which is, let me just do it like this, and I have base here, which actually, sorry about this, let me also exit full screen on this, and let me also make it so I can show base here. So let me see if I can drag and drop it to this one. Okay, that failed miserably. So I'll just do an open database, and I'll just go to, so base is actually really good for managing SQLite databases. So that's I just want to keep it open so that we can actually see how our migrations are doing overall. So I'll just go to the code folder and YouTube and SNK Laravel, and I'll just go to the database folder, and I'll open this. So there we are. So yeah, we can use you can use whatever you have. You can use Table Plus, you can use whatever other database client you have, you can use it. But but I prefer specific tools for stuff. So okay, so since the migrations have already run, you'll see that there are three tables. So the users table, the password resets, and the sessions table. And I think this is giving us enough insight. And let's go to, without further delay, let's go to the migrations. And so by default, Laravel actually ships with a few of these migrations. It ships with a users table migration, which actually has other migrations in it. Then it also has a cache table. So which, if you use the if you use the database cache driver cache store, then it actually uses this table. Then there is like the jobs table, which has jobs batches, and failed jobs. And there are a few things that you can see here as well. So when you are putting together your migrations, you don't have that much variation. So what I'm normally seeing is it's like string or integer or text. So, but you see there is string, there is long text, there is unsigned tiny integers, stuff like that. There's medium text, there's long text. So we'll cover all of these later. So okay, so the one way to create a migration, of course, is to say, okay, PHP artisan make. My apologies. I have autocomplete everywhere, which sometimes so we can say make migration create flight stable, and this is fine. So this will actually create a migration for you directly. And the advantage of using Getinit is also that it actually shows you what changes are there, so you can quickly get to them. So, but anyways, like flights, you can create the flight table like this. But this is not what I prefer. Like after this, you'll have to create the model and the controller and everything. So what I normally do is I do it like this. I do it like make flight. Okay, sorry about this. Make model flight, and okay, and then there is these flags. So there is A, which I really use, which would create a ton of these files. So as it is showing you, generate a migration seeder, factory policy. So a lot of this stuff which I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, so I'm creating the model with this command directly, but what do I want along with that? So I would like a migration, okay, and I would like controller, okay, and I would probably like a factory. I can if I want to have one, I can also have a seeder. So I think these should be more than enough. So as you'll see, with just this command, you can actually create all of these things in one go. So we have the flight model, we have the migration, and we have the seeder, and we also have a factory here, which might come in handy later. So I've chosen flights because this is one domain that I'm a little familiar with. I was in the travel industry for a part of my life, so I can actually, I think I'll be able to add more columns to this than any other. So this is just best for the demo purposes. So we'll just start with the good old string, and we can say the name of the airline name. So let's like make it airline name, and okay, so this is a string, and because airline names are going to be short, they're not going to be a story, they're just going to be a title. So they're just going to be a name. So I think airline name, it suits to have a string. You can have one of these other text columns which stores small relatively small data. So there's a few options, and before we start with those options, what we can do is we can actually add a small comment here, and this is pretty handy. So for example, if this is this is self-explanatory right now, so that should be fine. So flight stable, we can simply say that. But if this was in another language or something, and somebody wanted to come, instead of adding a comment like you usually do like this, like you could simply add a table comment, and that would actually give anyone who comes to this table an idea what this table is about. the same. Let's do it on the next column. So airline name, if you want to set a default on this, so for example, if you're operating from Germany, right? So you can probably say default Lufthansa. So if you want to set a default name, that'll give you um, that'll give you a record with Lufthansa. So this alone, for example, if you never set anything, this is going to populate Lufthansa whenever an airline name, whenever a new record is created. If you don't provide a name, then it is going to default to Lufthansa, and this is never going to be empty. So if there is one column that you know is mostly going to use a particular value, you can actually define the default on that. So moving on here, we will say table and let's say if you want like if you want the abbreviation, like for example Lufthansa would be LH, right? So let's say if you want a string and then you say airline abbreviation. Okay, yeah. Okay, so default Lufthansa, no, we don't want to do that, because Lufthansa is always going to be the default, and you can match it with the default. Here, if there is nothing provided, it would default to Lufthansa, but I think that might mess a few things up. So I think I would rather add a comment here and say, so this is the column level comment. So this would say airline abbreviation. Let me make it, yeah, we can say that, but yeah, let me be a little more clear, and let's say 2-letter airline abbreviation. So this is free form text, so so you can actually do anything here. I hate the autocomplete. Okay, I'll just go on and on. So we'll have to fight fight it off a bit. So we have a string that is the airline name, and it's defaulting to Lufthansa. If nothing is provided, it will be Lufthansa. There's like a string airline abbreviation, which is just going to be 2 letters. So again, string makes sense. You can also use probably tiny text or something, but yeah, string should be fine. And then if you want to, for example, table, if you want to add something longish, so let's say if you want to use something like description, okay, and okay, it is given in nullable, so we'll also cover nullable, I think, which is fairly basic and everyone would be familiar with it. But text is something for longer text, so that's fairly simple. Like you can also use long text if you are expecting it to be pretty long. But I think text mostly covers most of the use cases, so text should be fine. And if you don't want to give the description, if it is there, sometimes if it's not there, sometimes it should be. You can add the nullable in front of it. Okay, then we have, okay, let's say table integer, and we can say flight number. Right. So so your flight number is going to be an integer, and that's like, because it's normally like LH2345, and that's the flight number, so we will just keep it like that. And right, so that's integers covered. So also we want to we want to add a boolean, quickly get this out of the way. Instead of is domestic, I think we'll use is direct. So is direct flight, yeah, let's do that, and default it to true. No, I think because most of the flights I know from experience are indirect, so is direct flight will add a boolean and will default it to false. And remember, it has to be without the commas. It just has to be like this. Now I've seen people set this to an integer, and that introduces a problem. Integer can be anything. It just does not have to be 0 and 1. But when you set a boolean, it'll either accept true or false or 0 or 1. And I think that's a really a really good option. Like, that's right from the word go. This actually makes you safe against somebody trying to through an API or anything else try to save anything other than 0 and 1. So I think this is why I'm saying you should think of your requirements well ahead in advance, and a lot of these validations, a lot of these like suitability things, you can decide very early on at the migrations level, and that can save you a lot of headache later on. So now, what about, let's say, okay, let's start with a string and think of a better option. So we can say, okay, departure date. All right. So departure date is like, we can use string, but again, we are right from the word go, we are giving an option for people to kind of add anything to the column. And I've seen it like, it's data integrity just goes down the drain when you just select these generic options. So you can select string, and then you can trust the user that they are going to do the right thing, but that's not always going to happen. And I think it makes perfect sense to kind of do this at the migration level. So this is always going to now save date and not any random string. Same goes for time. So if it is leaving at 0900, it's going to be a time only. You can be sure now that it's only going to accept time, and it's not going to just accept any value out there. So I think this is a fairly good start, and we've covered like strings and texts and integer and boolean and date and time. So timestamps, this is actually something that adds created at and updated at to a migration. So we can run this, I believe, now, and let's try to, okay, we didn't run it. Okay, so we will just run it again. PHP artisan migrate fresh, and if you go to base, you should be able to see the flights table here. How do they refresh it? I'll have to find out. It's been some time I've used this. So let's just open it again. Maybe, yeah. Okay, yeah, so you'll see the flights table here with all these columns. Right, so far so good. So now, as you can see, there is integer, there's varchar, there is text, there is integer, there is tiny integer. So this is for the boolean thing, date, time, datetime. So there's a few here that are covered like this. So I think that should be enough for the first video. So because this is going to be a series, I'm going to actually cover more and more stuff in this, and trust me, this is going to save you a ton of headache later on. This is going to give you a lot of these things that you can set up early on, and you can save yourself from a lot of trouble later on. So in the coming videos, we'll try to kind of do a seeder or a factory and try to populate the data and show you this in action. So let me actually do it for as far as we have come. Let me actually do it here, and for this I'll use something that I really like. So I'll just open to the side, and so that way I'll be able to see what is there. So I can close this, and I can also do Control B so that the side is gone. Okay, so yeah, so I think we have cursor on our side, so we can quickly put something together. So airline name, we are not going to give it anything because we already have a default specified on the database level, and then there is the abbreviation. So we are faker random letter dot this faker random letter. So this is just going to give us 2 letters, and that should be good. description, a faker sentence, or you can, if you want to put a paragraph in, that should also be good. And why on earth is this? Okay, I know why, but yeah, because we don't have a cursor. um, Sorry, let me select this whole thing. We don't have a cursor rules file, so this is using a slightly older syntax, which we'll replace right now, and we'll do it like this. So paragraph, and then flight number, there's number between, yeah, that's fine, I think that should be okay. Is direct flight fake boolean? Okay, departure date, so this is going to date and time, right? So I think we're going to come across one problem here. So we will see this, actually, hold on. So let's just do this, because this is not a seeder, this is a factory. So let's go to Tinkerbell and let's open the project. Let's open the project here, YouTube and SNK Laravel, sorry. So we'll just pick it up and open it. So we'll open the project, and I think we should already be good, but yeah, let's okay, yeah, let's SNK Laravel here, and we have PHP 8.4 running here. So here's what we'll do. So we'll say flight, and okay, so let's import that first. Use app models flight, and then say flight factory count 10, create, and let's see what it comes up with. So we are going to create 10 records here, all right, and it has actually created those 10 records. So we'll go to base, and again I have to grapple with, okay, thank god it right, so it is already closed. So this is basically the schema, and let's go to data and let's see what is happening. So as you can see, it is always populating Lufthansa, because we are not providing in the factory, we are not providing anything. Now this is really, now this is an example, but again, like, this is really useful for something that you always know is going to be this value, all right? But of course it's not going to be this value in real life. But this is just an example, so we can, I think, Lufthansa, and then it just gives us 2 letters, and maybe we should make them capital to make it a little more realistic. I like my factory's data to be really realistic. And as you can see, there's a whole paragraph in description, and it's not squeaking. If it was string, and that I've seen more often than not, like, that seems like something that would probably not happen, but this is happening very frequently. So people would set a string here, and not on description, but certain columns for which they have not visualized, slightly longer data, so they would later on have a problem with this. So flight number, that's fine. Is direct flight, now that's a boolean, and it's saving zeros and ones, that's perfectly fine. Then departure date, so as you can see, we are going to, so the problem that I was anticipating was maybe, it would be something like a different date format, but that's not the case. But what's happening incorrectly is, like, it's giving us some really old dates, and that will fix. So departure time, now as you can see, this is not departure. This is just saving time. This is not saving anything else, and the timestamps are automatic. So first of all, what I'll do is, because we'll have to run this multiple times, so what I'll do is I'll probably add an artisan here, an artisan command here, and call, I will say migrate fresh, and so this is going to call a migrate fresh every single time, and we need to, of course, import the artisan facade here. So artisan call migrate fresh, so this is going to refresh the database every time before it actually runs the factory, and that gives us some leverage, and this actually clears the database every single time. So this is going to come up with new data all the time. So in order to convert these really old dates to something more reasonable, we are going to come here, and we are going to do a bit of magic here, and we are going to say departure date time, and this is going to be fake date time this month. Yeah, that looks good. And then we can say departure, because we don't have a date this month. So yeah, I think this looks good. So departure time, departure date time, and format, that the format that we want is in the year, month, and date, which is the typical American format. So let's try and run this and see if this fixes our issue. Okay, departure date. Okay, we haven't changed that. So we are going to have to change that to this departure date here. So let's rerun this, and there we go. So if we come back to base, you'll see that all the data that we are seeing here is, I really need to find out how they refresh this. And let me try to reopen this. That's going to refresh it for now. I'll definitely figure it out by the next video. And okay, so in the flights, we have like data here, and if we go to data, you'll see that we have dates within a month, which looks a lot more reasonable. So that's something that you can do. And you can also, this is not about a factory, but you can also abstract it to a state and say, okay, this month's flights, whatever. But yeah, that's not, again, we'll go down a different tangent. So I think so far so good. We have introduced some, we have used some basic stuff, and we are making sure that this is, every column is defined the way it should be. So yeah, until we meet next time, let's continue this, and I'll be covering more stuff in further detail in the next videos. Thank you.